notebooks. All right, so lesson 82 is area of a circle, which is actually not too hard of a concept to understand. Area of a circle, if you've never heard of it before, and you should have already, because math and algebra is always a continual buildup of stuff you've already learned. And sometimes you redo things that you've already done because without practice you don't remember. The more practice, the more you will remember. So we talked about area of a circle. We've done lots of areas of different shapes through the past few months. Today we're going to do one more, and that's a circle. And yes, I could put a circle shape in here, but just draw a circle. And what a circle hinges on is the fact that a circle, I drew two things on my circle right there. What are those two things called? No. That is a right angle if I drew it straight, but what are those two things called? They go from the center of a circle to the outside of a circle. It's called the radius. All right, and for the area of a circle, if you notice, if I turn this into a square, I know it looks like a rectangle because I didn't draw it straight, but if I draw a square, notice that parts of it goes on the outside of the circle. It doesn't quite fit. So I can't divide my circle up into 4 squares because then I would be outside of the circle. So a little bit of this involves if I divided this up into squares, if I divided it up into 4 squares, you might notice that the area of the circle, oops, I went too far on that one. The area of the circle fits within 4 squares. 3 squares wouldn't be enough, and 4 squares would be too much. That should give you a hint on what that's indicated. And to help us figure that out, it means it's just like doing the circumference when we used that term, that Greek term, which was, remember that Greek term, 2 letters, sounds like something you eat. Pi.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the area of a circle, then, pi. In Greek is pi. Okay, so the area of a circle is A equals, write this down in your notebooks, pi r squared. Or pi times the radius squared. So whatever the radius of your circle is, if you square it and multiply it by 3.14, you have the area of a circle. And in your books, when you're doing any assignment or on future tests, when it talks about pi, it's going to ask you some specific things about pi. Or it's going to ask you some specific ways that you can solve for pi. And pi is going to show up in these 3 ways. The simplified decimal form is 3.14. It's a lot longer than that, but 3.14 is what you're standardly going to use. But sometimes you'll be asked to use 22/7, which is also pi. The improper fraction 22/7 you might be asked to use for pi. And sometimes you'll be asked just to leave pi as pi. Just to leave it as it is. Okay? So I want you to draw 3 circles on your notebooks. In your first circle, draw a diameter. So that's going to go through the center, all the way through. And that's going to be 8 centimeters. Now let's find the area of that circle that I just did. All right? So remember the formula is A equals pi r squared. So what is the radius of my first circle that I just did? It's 4, right? Because it's half. So what is 4 squared?
4 squared is 16.
4 squared is 16. So to do this, I'm going to do 3.14 times 16. Good. What is that? Figure it out. $50.24. And it was in centimeters, so you have to write it square centimeters to label it correctly. So you want to make sure you have it labeled correctly. Well, here's another way you might see it. Here's a radius, and it's 4 centimeters. But this time, leave pi as pi. So when it says leave pi as pi, if your book ever says leave pi as pi, then using that formula, what is 4 squared? So you're going to write 16 pi square centimeters. Well, if it says leave pi as pi, then you're not going to even multiply pi. You're just going to write 16 pi. Okay? Make that simpler. And the last one more. Same numbers, because the numbers don't matter. This time we're going to use 22/7 for pi. Okay, so the radius is obviously 4. 4 squared is 16. So if you write 16/1 times 22/7, what do you get? Can't simplify this one at all. So you have to multiply it. 16 times 22 divided by 7. And you're going to write this one as a mixed number because you're already multiplying by a fraction. 352/7? Good. Okay, so 352/7. Well, we can't leave it that way. It's an improper fraction. So let's make it a mixed number. So divide 352 by 7. All right, 7 goes into 35 5 times, right? Okay, 35. Okay, so bring the 2 down. Doesn't go in at all, does it? So it's 50
Oh, yeah.
and 2, because you want to write it as a mixed number because you're doing a fraction.
Oh.
So your remainder is 2, right?
Oh.
Because that's not going to go in at 0 times,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's 50 and 2/7 when you divide it out. Because we started with a fraction, we're going to keep it as a fraction. Over here, we started with a decimal. We'll keep it as a decimal. All right? Those are the 3 ways your book is going to show you. But the gist of the whole lesson, to summarize the whole deal, is area of a circle is pi r squared. 3.14 times the square of the radius. Questions on that? It's pretty simple. All right? That's why we have to use pi, because if I go back to where we were, 3.14 means that the area of a circle is more than 3 of these squares, but a lot less than 4 of those squares. That's why we use 3.14, which is the most accurate we can get. All right, very good.